This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Wednesday, February 22nd, 2006, and this is episode number 65 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hodgberg from MGMstudios.org. On the show today, we have Len Testa of TouringPlans.com. Welcome, Len.
Hey, Matt.
And we've also got the man of many columns, Mike Scopa of MousePlanet.com. Welcome, Mike.
Quick, follow that Mona Lisa.
I don't know.
Nine-Eye?
You got it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
The alternative to that was, hey, there goes Beethoven. Ha 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 ha.
Well, it's our Wednesday show, and that means we're doing listener questions. In fact, we're doing listener questions all of the month of February. So if you'd like your questions answered, email us at questions@wdwtoday.com if you don't have access to email. You can also go to our website, wdwtoday.com, and find a form where you can submit your question. Our first question comes from Mike Raff of Oakland, New Jersey, who writes, "Hey guys, great podcast. I'm planning a trip to Disney in the summer of 2007 with 8 to 12 friends of mine, and our minds are set to staying at Caribbean Resort. What dates do you suggest going down? Is the meal ticket worth getting?" I believe he means the Disney dining plan. "And is it better booking it or going through a travel agent? I'm part of the Disney Vacation Club. Do I get any discounts?" So let's start with dates. Summer, he says summer 2007. Is there a good time in the summer to go?
It's either early or late is good. I think the second half of August is going to be better than late June.
I agree.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, so the second half of August won't be too bad. The thing with summer this year, you'll have to check the Florida school schedule. This year, Florida schools are getting out a week early, so they'll actually be out the last week of May. Whereas last year they were out the first week of June. So, Mike, you'll have to check the Florida school calendars or just shoot us back an email. We'll find it for you for 07 if they've set it. If you want to go early. If you want to go late, though, yeah, definitely mid-August on isn't terrible.
The Disney dining plan, correct me if I'm wrong, the general consensus is it's worth getting in general, assuming you don't want to eat at places that require 3 meal values, and as long as you can be one of those people that are proactive and plan ahead rather than show up and be subject to whatever's available.
Yeah, as far as reviews go, I don't think we've had a single complaint from unofficial guide readers about the dining plan. But again, like you said, you do have to plan ahead, and I would definitely advise Mike to start getting reservations 180 days out for those places he wants to eat at, because they do tend to fill up fast. I think Scopa, Le Cellier gets busy really fast, right?
Yeah. Well, although, Len, last July when my wife and I were down there, we ate at Le Cellier 3 times in a 2-week span, and I made the reservations within an hour. But they were lunch. I mean, lunch is the best time to go to Le Cellier. But getting back to the dining plan, I think that what has to be done is you have to look at all the restaurants, and you have to plan. You have to be very proactive. You don't want to waste any of those dining plan options. You don't want to go to a restaurant that is really not that expensive and waste a sit-down meal. You also don't want to waste 2 sit-down meals at some place like, I believe, Artist Point may be one. I'm not sure if that's one, or some place where you end up using 2 of those credits. Right. You need to be very, very, very careful in looking at those. The other thing I wanted to point out regarding the time to go, I agree with Len, late August. Actually, what I would suggest is booking your room on the last day that the value season is in effect, so that you get the value season rate for the entire time you're there, if you're staying on the property.
This question about booking, is it better to book through a travel agent or not? I think it's just a matter of personal preference more than anything, right?
I used to do, for a long time, I used to do it myself, and now I won't. I want someone who's a professional. I want someone who's going to be monitoring the rates. I want someone who's going to be working for me all the time, who can talk to those people down there, who have a relationship with the people down there, who know what I want. I would strongly suggest a travel agent.
Great. And he asks about Disney Vacation Club. Do they get any discounts?
I think on annual passes, don't they get a discount on APs and some certain dining privileges. I would
think they
definitely
do.
check with their DVC coordinator or their home DVC resort, Mike, to verify.
sure.
But I think you do get a discount on annual passes.
Well, Becky Specht of Rockford, Illinois writes, great show. I wish I had found your website, the webcast, before we went the last time to Disney. I have a question regarding Chico's. My husband and I had this most amazing dessert there that was called pineapple, pineapple, pineapple. I have been looking for the recipe ever since. Do you know where I could find it? I have both official Disney cookbooks, and it is in neither.
Have you tried calling the resort and asking, or calling the restaurant and asking? And sometimes they'll actually do that for you.
I'm not aware of too many.
And Chico's only available. I think it's only open for dinner. So Becky, I mean, try giving me a call like after, not while they're operating, but maybe like an hour before they open, when all the staff is generally in the restaurant, but they're not having to run around and service staff. And see what they say. And if they don't, let me know, and we'll start asking here.
Our next question comes from Robert Lipsett of Hingham, Massachusetts, who writes, which attractions have corporate lounges, and how would a guest be allowed to enter each one?
Well,
Mr. Scopa?
The problem is that only employees can enter those corporate lounges. I believe, let's see, we've got General Motors lounge is in Test Track. The Hewlett-Packard lounge is in Mission Space. American Express used to be in American Adventure. Len, was that correct? American Express. Let's see.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a great lounge.
Yeah, and it's just they are reserved for the employees of the corporation company that sponsors the lounge. Now,
Yeah.
there used to be annual pass holder lounges. There was one above the Garden Grill in the Land Pavilion, very, very nice. There was also one behind Pizza Fiery in the Animal Kingdom. I don't recall any annual pass holder lounges or corporate lounges in Magic Kingdom. But those are the only lounges that I'm aware of. And like I said, you have to be an employee of the corporation that sponsors the lounge, that sponsors the pavilion or the attraction or whatever, and you have to show identification in order to get into the lounge. And the lounge is usually a very air-conditioned, comfortable area that you can sit and you can. Usually they'll have refreshments there. I know that at Mission Space we can play games. Len and I have played games there, and
Yeah, that's a great corporate lounge.
yeah, done video. There's a video booth in there, and you can go right to the head of the line for Mission Space in that particular lounge. So that's about all the information I can think of that would cover that.
Well, our next question comes from Rick, who asks, in a few of your podcasts, you mentioned that eBay auctions off mouse excess items that were on property that they no longer use. Is that on eBay or a separate website? If it is a different website, can you please send it to me? Could I be spelling it wrong? Well,
It's mousesurplus.com.
Yep. And
Mouse
Surplus.
Surplus, SURPLUS.com. And on the website they have a link to all of their eBay auctions. Actually, JimHillMedia.com just did an overview of their operations. It's pretty cool.
I'll be sure to post a link in the show notes for you, Rick, and anyone else who's interested who may not have caught the name
Yeah, I've
of
actually
it before.
bought stuff from them before. They've got some really unique stuff actually from the parks. Like if you wanted any of the old furniture from the Polynesian, for example, they've got tons of that. They get the rooms from the Contemporary that are done. And I actually got Mike Scopa a birthday present last year. It was one of the Osborne Family Spectacle of Lights from the studios.
Hey, Mike, I believe it was Mark Goldhaber who did an article on Mouse Planet about Mouse Surplus?
I think you're right, Matt. Mark was down there in early November, early Mouse Fest time, probably late November, and I know that he spent a day or two over there. And you may want to put in the show notes that our listeners could check on some of Mark's columns from probably, I'd say mid-December. He may have discussed his trip over there.
Yeah, I'll post a link in the show notes. Alex Bogdan writes, just listen to the rental car versus Disney transportation show. I have a question about one of the supposed benefits of renting a car. The availability of cheaper off-site dining if you're staying somewhere like Caribbean Beach with limited dining options. Do you really save money doing that? What does a cheap car cost? Maybe $30 a day with tax and gas included? Can you really save that much money dining off-site compared to a food court?
Yeah, we were just on that with Sarah, who got rates for $13 a night. I would expect that you could get a rental car most times for in the $18 to $21 per day range, and for a family of 4, I think it's easy to save $18 a day on food.
Easily. I think the more people you're trying to feed, the higher the savings, right, Lynn?
Yeah, I mean for dinner, I can't think of any sit-down place in Walt Disney World where you can get that dinner for 2 for less than $40.
Well, Alex is comparing. He says once enough you save that much money compared to dining at a food court. I mean, the food court food is still overpriced compared to probably what you could find for that anywhere
generally,
else.
I think the food court stuff is like 25 to 40% more than you would get
Elsewhere.
Elsewhere, yeah. So per meal, I'm guessing it's like $5 to $8. So over the course of a sit-down meal, a breakfast, and a dinner, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. But yeah, I mean, I understand Alex's point. I mean, if you're just going to eat counter service, or even if you're going to share some meals, I could see how that might not be the rental car might not be efficient. But I think for most people, especially anything more than 2 people, rental cars are the way to go.
Great. Our next question comes from overseas. James Silkstone of Leeds, United Kingdom writes, "Hey guys, I'm an avid listener of the show. It's always my favorite thing to listen to on the way home from work. Keep up the great job. I have a question about the 50th anniversary celebrations. I understand they are still continuing now, but I'm curious as to how long they will continue for. Will the celebrations still be on in the summer, I believe of 2006 he's asking, for example, or will they have ended by then? I am asking as I am visiting Walt Disney World in August, and it would be nice to see the castle decorated in its fancy celebration costume. That is, if it's still like that now."
Still on, I guess. I think it's still on to the end of this calendar year. I think.
Yeah, I thought it was at least till October. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's going on, and it's going on until the end of December, right? Through December?
I believe
I thought it was October, but yeah, okay.
No, because I remember we mentioned that it was. I know it was related to Magical Express, and it's free through December 31st of 2006.
Okay. That's cool. Have they come up with a new theme yet for next year?
I don't think so.
Somebody's working on it.
Yeah, sure. Don't worry about
$10 says it involves the word magic, dreams, wishes, or arts. My theory on that.
Somebody slap that guy.
Well, our next question comes from Jeff, who writes, "Any insight to Narcoossee's? I heard it talked about in a past episode. Is it a formal restaurant like Victoria and Albert's, or is it more laid back?"
I've never been there, but it's not formal like Victoria and Albert's, but it's probably just a little a shade below, maybe, or a little bit below that. Lan, have you been there?
I don't know. I've been to Citrico's. I haven't been to Narcoossee's, but we can ask. Good question. I know that is that the one that's on the water, right?
It's in a rotunda kind of a deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So my guess is, just given its setting, it's going to be a little bit more formal than, say, Citrico's, but probably not as much as Victoria and Albert's.
I did peek in there one day when I was running real early in the morning. It did look somewhat kind of Grand Floridian-ish,
Grand Floridian-ish.
Grand Floridian-ish.
Was it? I mean, did it look? Did it have like formal? Was it sort of like a casual Florida Key West thing, or was it more like stuffy
Upscale.
sort of old retirees with money?
Yeah, you got it.
I think
The ladder of the ladder. Yeah.
I would say that it would be closer to us.
I mean, you could go there. You could wear a pair of shorts, I think, in there. I mean,
Really?
I don't know. I would. The heck with them,
Well, they're not open for lunch, right? They're only open for dinner?
I believe so. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's going to be more formal. I mean, I was at Citrico's for dinner in December, and I wasn't wearing a tie, but everyone else was wearing at least a jacket. That I saw. No one was wearing shorts.
Oh.
My guess is Narcoossee's is at least that formal.
Well, our next email is a comment from Paul Berquist, who writes, "Gentlemen, in reference to a listener's question about bike riding places in around Walt Disney World, show 56, I believe, I have included a link to a course map for the bike portion of the Florida Half Ironman Triathlon that is held annually in May. I've never ridden a bike on the marked streets, so I can't speak as to how much traffic there is at any given time, but at least this might be a point of reference for finding a place to ride while near Walt Disney World. So I'll post a link to that show notes. I also noticed that in my past trip to the Port Orleans French Quarter, there is a bike path on the map that they give you of the resort.
Yep.
Was that what you were going to say, Lon?
No, there's one there too, but I know the triathlon map because I'm thinking about doing the triathlon in September in Disney. But it actually goes out on 535 and a bunch of state roads and stuff. There are really two courses. One is just a big loop around the Walt Disney World property. The other one's actually in Fort Wilderness. So I think if you type in Disney Triathlon into Google, Disney Triathlon map, you'll come up with a bunch of different courses. So, yeah, good point, Paul.
Our last question today comes from Steve of St. Louis, Missouri, who writes, "Hello, Steve from St. Louis. Just wondering if any of you listen to the podcast of Walt Disney World's official site. They are very well done, and the monorail host in introducing and closing the show, Scopa, Eat Your Heart Out. They also have a full video of the Expedition Everest ride, which may be a first for Disney, giving away a ride before it's officially open. Just wondering your thoughts on this."
Yeah, it's a great podcast. In fact, the guy who does it, Dave Brady, is our media relations guy for the Unofficial Guide, so that's how we know him. And having met Dave, he's a great guy. I'm glad to see him doing well on the podcast. Definitely has a face made for radio, and I say that with love. But yeah, it's very entertaining. The stuff that they did with Rohde with Joe Rohde for Everest was very, very good. So
I'm not a big fan of corporate podcasts, mainly because they tend to be just elongated commercials for for them.
Yeah, it's pretty well put together, though.
I mean, yeah, for the entertainment value, it's great. I don't, certainly the monorail guy is worth listening
to. I thought he was dead, but it's apparently not. So we gotta find the monorail guy and get him on our show.
We'll get a like what they did for Tower of Terror, where they got the guy who sounds like
Serling, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get the guy who sounds like the monorail guy for our show.
Jack Warner, right?
All right, so I know it's a listener's show, but I want to tell you my Suppositorio story.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, so we're done with questions, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so Friday night, I'm driving to Raleigh to pick up some desk furniture, and I've got my brother-in-law Rob, who works for the Guide, my sister Linda, who works for the Guide, my wife Dawn, and I are riding. And Suppositorio calls about the rooms that I've got coming up for March, where we're staying at like 4 different value resorts, 4 different nights. And she told me that I got an AP rate, and we're going over it. She's giving me all the details and everything, and I'm telling her that she needs to be on the podcast again. And maybe we could talk about the Adventures by Disney stuff that's launched. And people are talking in the background. I'm talking to Sue. We're trying to drive and do directions to Raleigh. So we get to the end of the call. I'm like, okay, Sue, thanks. Love you. Bye. And then I realized I just told my travel agent I loved her, right? And then, which is sort of odd because I don't normally do that when I end my calls with Sue. And so I told everyone, and I'm like, I wonder if I'm going to get a better rate because of that, because I just told my travel agent that I love her. And then Dawn, my wife, is like, see, you just say you love me at the end of every call. It just reflects it. You don't actually mean it. It was a great. So anyway, and the thing that I found out too is that if you stretch out in the back of the Ford Explorer, you can actually sleep in it every night in the garage, and it's really not that cold.
Great storyline.
That's my story. Thanks. So we got to have Sue back on, and I probably won't tell her I love her. But
well, that's it for us today. This has been episode number 65 of Walt Disney World Today. If you want to find older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.wdwtoday.com. You can also email us your own questions at questions@wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, who I love, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Love ya.